Chapter 15 Those Chosen Before. This was like something out of a nightmare. Trapped down inside the old Medoro cistern with barely enough light to see, while the vine-wrapped skeletons whispered warnings of doom, and worse yet, the large figure rising up in the center of the chamber. Its armor might have been shiny once, but those days were long past, and the vines that clung to the metal were almost more like engraved patterns. Its helmet had a full-face shield, and its sword was heavily rusted, making the figure even more imposing. "Welcome, young hero," the figure whispered, its voice seeming to echo off the walls. "Tell us, what are you expecting to find all the way down here in the dark?" "I've come to face the challenge," Link answered confidently. "I seek to reclaim the Triforce of Courage and free Princess Zelda from the curse." The Lord Sheriff expected these figures to respect his resolve, or to maybe even become angry and attack him, which he was prepared for by keeping his hand on his sheathed sword. However, what he did not expect was laughter. Loud, echoing laughter that came from everywhere at once, from both the figures and the trapped skeletons. There were no indications that anything was going to attack him, but the laughter was almost unbearable.
"The hero wants to save Zelda,"
one of the trapped skeletons said when the laughter stopped.
"I wanted to save her once too. I was a fool."
"I thought I was invincible after Parappa Palace," another skeleton added, pulling against the vines that looked like they were tightening to restrain it. "But then Sing lured me down here."
"Zelda was supposed to be mine,"
a skeleton on the other side of the chamber groaned.
"From the moment I met her on the island, I fell in love, and I knew that she and I were destined to be together, but I was only destined for this place."
These warnings continued as one by one the skeletons told a fragment of their story, as if each had once been a hero that was chosen to undertake this quest. But if that were true, then what had happened to leave them trapped by the vines? So far, nothing had attacked him, nor was anything moving toward him as he looked around, but Link was not about to let down his guard for any reason.
"The sleeping princess does not love you,"
the armored figure said, some water gushing out from under its helmet as it spoke.
"She will never be yours. You are throwing away your life for nothing."
"This quest is not for nothing," the Lord Sheriff finally replied, drawing his sword. "And who are you to say what Princess Zelda will do after I save her?" Again, all the skeletons and the armored figure started laughing, some of their bones rattling while the vines tightened around them, but this time it made Link angry. Determined to stop the annoying sound that they were making, he trudged forward through the waist-deep water, swinging his silver sword as soon as he was close enough, and hearing a loud clang when it struck the figure's helmet. The laughter certainly stopped as the seemingly empty helmet flew across the chamber, but no sooner had it splashed down into the water when there was a scraping sound as another helmet rose up from inside the armor to take its place. The new helmet was the same style but lacked the face shield, revealing that this one was also empty. Reflexively taking a step back, mostly out of surprise, the Lord Sheriff grit his teeth before attacking again, this time not only cutting off the figure's helmet with his sword, but also one of its arms. He stopped upon realizing that there was nothing at all inside of the armor, causing the trapped skeletons to start laughing again as a new armored arm extended out of the torso. But there was something different about the helmet this time. No, it wasn't a helmet at all, it was more like a skull, just like the trapped skeletons that were bound by the wall of the chamber. The grinning skull had vines that were wrapped around it, tightening in reaction to its every move. The armored figure was laughing again now too, the vines spreading into its mouth when it did so, and making Link feel a lot less confident, as he had never seen anything quite like this in his life.
"Fear not, hero, for all is not lost,"
one of the skeletons whispered.
"You cannot triumph here, but we all of us can spare you from our fate. There is no hope for us,
another of them added as a crack of light appeared in the wall.
But for you, we offer an escape.
Golden yellow light began to fill the chamber as the crack widened, expanding into a hidden passage where sunlight could be seen coming down from above a stone staircase, as if the rainstorm on the surface had stopped. More vines began to come up from the water now, increasing the size of each of the skeletons' prisons, and also binding each of them more tightly, including the armored figure.
This path leads beyond Medoro's swamp,
the armored figure continued.
Forget this quest. Forget the Triforce and the princess. Escape this place, and then leave Hyrule. No one will ever know.
Staring at the path and feeling the edges of the warm sunlight, the Lord Sheriff was certainly tempted to use what might have been the only available way to escape this place, but something was wrong. For one thing, the holes of light on the ceiling of the chamber were still clouded, meaning that the rain had not actually stopped just yet, and there was also the fact that the laughing skeletons had fallen silent. Yes, aside from the falling water, which somehow didn't enter the glowing escape route, there were no sounds at all within the chamber, making it somehow even more frightening than when the bones had been talking. The obvious choice was for the Lord Sheriff to escape through the tunnel, but nothing in this place seemed to completely add up. Like everything that Link was seeing was wrong somehow.
Do not share our fate,
another of the skeletons warned after several seconds of him doing nothing.
You can escape the vines. You can escape the quest. You can run away and no one will know any better. Just run from the passage. Quickly.
No! Link loudly declared, silencing the voices. I won't pretend to understand what is happening here, but I am not some coward who will sneak away from his responsibility. I did not choose this quest, but I didn't choose to fight Ganondorf either, and I didn't run away then. With that, the Lord Sheriff came forward, swinging his sword at the armored figure and separating its skull from its body, just as he had done to its two helmets. This time, all of the skeletons screamed as the chamber shook for a second, the vines dragging each of their captives back under the water, while the sunlit passage slammed shut, and then the chamber was dark. Dark except for the clouded light coming from above, and from what was now rising from the water in place of the armored figure. It was like the floating, glowing red and blue skulls that had been seen upon first entering the flooded chamber, but about 3 times their size, and with long horns coming out of the sides of its temples. Still standing there with his sword ready, the Lord Sheriff thought he was going to have to fight this creature as well, but instead of attacking him, it just floated up to the center of the room and stayed there.
Well done, hero,
it whispered, echoing just as the voices had done.
You stood your ground in the face of fear and damnation, something that only a few before you have managed. Had you run for the passage and shown yourself a coward, your skeleton would have been added to the eternal prison of this place.
It was a hard thing for him to hear that those bound skeletons had actually been the chosen heroes who came before him, but even if they had become afraid and tried to escape the remainder of the quest, that didn't mean that they deserved to be trapped down in Medoro's cistern for all time. Link then swallowed hard, realizing that without Sing's vague warning about needing more than brute strength to pass the test, he might not have understood what to do. But hadn't she warned the others? Free them! He ordered, pointing his sword to the floating creature. Release all of your victims at once!
Such bravery, even when the challenge is complete,
the creature whispered as it started to fade away.
I wish you luck, hero. Maybe you will succeed where no others have before you.
With that, the glowing, flashing skull was gone, faded away into nothing. But wait a moment. The whole chamber was fading away as well. Everything was vanishing around him, and when it was finished, Link was standing somewhere else. Now, hearing water running behind him, the Lord Sheriff discovered that he was standing back at the first junction after entering the building, but all of the tunnels were blocked, as if they had collapsed a very long time before. His sword was still sheathed, noticing it just as the pain he was feeling from the mark on his hand stopped, leaving Link with nowhere to go but back up the stairs to Medoro Swamp. So what? Had the whole thing been a hallucination from when he reached the bottom of the stairs? Had there actually been a chamber of bound skeletons and a confrontation with the armored figure? Or had it all been in his mind as well? This whole situation was making his head hurt, so the Lord Sheriff turned around, starting up the stairs while realizing that he felt tired. So tired, in fact, that his legs were a little wobbly, and he was already out of breath after just starting toward the rain-soaked surface. The falling rain and cool wind made Link feel a little bit better once he reached the top of the stairs and stepped out into the fresh air, but he was starting to get sleepy now. Trudging slowly through the ankle-deep water of the marshes, the Lord Sheriff wiped the rain from his eyes and thought he spotted the figures of Sing and his horse off in the distance. It was just a little further to solid ground. Why was he so exhausted anyway, especially if the whole ordeal had been in his mind? Whatever the cause, he was tired. So tired that he had just stepped out of the water and back onto solid ground when Link fell forward as the need to sleep was victorious.